Okay. Good afternoon to all the participants and welcome to our event, Integrated Policy Initiatives Targeting the EU Green Deal. Let me share the agenda. So that's it. And let me introduce a little bit this event and myself and this event. I'm Gaetano Zarlenga, the director of QUAIM, an Italian university network, and I'm here with my colleagues Eleonora Fantozzi, Laura Ciarmela, and Martina Vallerotonda. Please let me say thank you to all of them for the collaboration in organizing this event, and also to Ecomondo Fair for hosting our events and meetings facing many difficulties due to COVID restrictions. Thank you for sure also to all the speakers that replied with their full availability to our invitation. Very briefly, our goal today, the aim of our event is to discuss and share our experiences and perspectives on the policy framework represented by Circular Economy Action Plan and EU Green Deal, which are the challenges, obstacles, opportunities in transforming the EU economy for a sustainable future. We could approach this transition to a sustainable future with the quintuple helix framework in which are represented research, industry, institution and governments, and also civil society, taking in account the territorial and environmental aspects. In this framework, we have organized this event trying to represent all these players. So you will attend this presentation from the research sector, from enterprises, and also from institutions. The idea is to interact within a knowledge economy. Let me say only a few words about the Green Growth community. We are a partner of this community that is a pioneering horizontal project of the INTERREG MED program. A community which gathered 14 projects dealing with green growth, circular economy and innovation, and especially specifically addressing the Mediterranean SMEs and clusters needs. We are working on it since 1916. So now we have this 14 project focused on 4 areas: the food system, the eco-innovation, smart cities, and waste management. I don't want to say other words on it because our first presentation is to introduce this framework that could be useful to start the session today. Yesterday we have had also a seminar titled Circular Economy Best Practices for Innovative Mediterranean SMEs, in which we have presented a detailed description of our project results and, as you have understood, a community outlook. I will give you some other information on it because we've got a capitalization platform, and in the context of Ecomondo, we will have the possibility of organized bilateral meetings with the project. So the idea is to join our community. I don't want to waste the time of the agenda, so please, I remind you to stay in the 15 minutes of your interventions, and I could leave the floor. It's a pleasure to leave the floor to my colleague Martina Vallerotonda that will describe in more detail the INTERREG Mediterranean Green Growth community. So please, Martina, I give you the possibility to share your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaetano. I will first shut off my webcam and I'm going to share my screen. And now you should be able to see it. Can you please confirm that you see it?
No.
Gaetano,
now yes.
No, not yet. Okay, just give me one. Okay, great. Just give me 1 second. I don't know why. Okay. So good afternoon to all the presents and all to all the speakers. I'm Martina Varrotonda, project manager of QAIM, and I'm going to present more in detail the INTERREG MED Green Growth Community. First of all, what is the INTERREG MED program? It is a funding European program that covers the 13 countries of the Mediterranean for a total of 57 regions and for a total budget, including the national co-financing of 265 millions of euros. The architecture of the INTERREG MED program is very peculiar, as anticipated also by Gaetano. Is a pioneering program because for the first time it introduced another level of cooperation apart from the standard cooperation within the so-called modular projects. So we have a second level of cooperation, the one of the horizontal projects that are the communities of the thematic projects working on the specific axes on their specific thematic areas. We are the green growth community. And then we collaborate with all the standard projects and also with the third level of cooperation, that is the X4, the governance, with the project Panorama that has a more strategic objective. The project within the communities can be projects of studying, testing, or capitalizing specific best practices and results, or a combination of them. In general, the outreach of an INTERREG MED project is to transfer project results into the MED territories, but also beyond these boundaries, to mainstream the results into policy and to liaise with the strategic objective. This is also the goal of the community. And we want to support the projects of our community in reaching this strategic objective of transferring and mainstreaming and liaising. But who we are more in detail. Our priority axis is promoting Mediterranean innovation capacities to develop smart and sustainable growth. Our thematic, as I said, is green growth. The horizontal projects that is coordinating the community is seen two phases. The first phase with the former project Singi, and now the current second phase coordinated by the horizontal project called Green Growth. In our community, we have 14 modular projects for a total of 165 partners covering 13 countries, the entire coverage of the INTERREG MED. We have decided to cluster the thematic projects within 4 focus areas, and we have worked with them into 4 thematic working groups. We will see more in detail afterwards. And we have a total budget of about 30 million euro. As a thematic community of projects, we aim to promote sustainable development in the Mediterranean based on the sound management of the natural resources by enhancing cross-sectoral innovation practices and taking into account the effects on the labor market by promoting social inclusion and green jobs. We support the projects in their communication and capitalization efforts, thus increasing their impact at policy level and ensuring potential transfer and replication of their results. The current phase, the current project, the Green Growth, see a consortium of 7 partners: the Beta Technological Center of the University of Vic in Catalonia, that is the lead partner, Revolve from Spain, Quaim from Italy, Dynamic Vision from Greece, ERIN from Belgium, Anima from France, and Center 21 from Bosnia-Herzegovina. The Green Growth community has been labeled by the 43 member states of the Union of the Mediterranean, UFM, in October. The goal of the Union of the Mediterranean is to promote and give visibility to projects through communication and networking by granting them recognition thanks to the UFM label. It also provides support to the project through technical expertise, making sure that the implementation goes smoothly. So the UFM label recognizes the Green Growth communities, acknowledging its potential to advance cooperation in transition into the transition to a green and circular economy in the Mediterranean region. Thus, it opens the first time the possibility to cooperate and expand the thematic community current scope with the southern Mediterranean countries. It also facilitates the collaboration with recognized initiatives such as WitchMed, and we will have more detail about this initiative, the WitchMed, also in a presentation later on done by Alessandro Miraglia. As I said, the community, the 14 projects have been gathered in the 4 focus areas that address the key priority of the European Green Deal and the European Circular Economy Action Plan. The community contributes to this priority by building upon and capitalizing on the first phase of our project that started in 2016 and ended in 2019, but is still going on, when the 14 projects were carried out to tackle challenges in food systems, eco-innovation, smart cities, and waste management. As I said, as anticipated, we have worked within the framework of these 4 thematic working groups, because we have recognized their work, their activities within the value chain, let's say, of the circular economy, in the different phases of the circular economy. So we have structured the thematic working groups in resource efficiency, green and smart public services, waste prevention and management, and competitiveness and innovation. Working with the projects within the thematic working groups, we have produced, as a community as a whole, some capitalization outputs that are aimed specifically to decision makers and institutional bodies. We have produced legal recommendations, policy recommendations, circular economy white papers, and the Green Growth book. Very briefly, I will give you few details more on this capitalization output. Legal recommendations. This document established the procedure, methodology, and roadmap for the formulation of legal recommendation over the project's future phases. Then we have also the policy recommendations that are, in a way, the more related outcomes to the TOTIS policy recommendation report provides a holistic, integrated, and cooperation-based framework for the development of circular economies. It involves various actors across different phases and scales. And the paper presents 17 policy recommendations and 33 suggested intervention clustered around the following 6 thematic areas: investment and access to finance, technological infrastructure, labor market and employment, awareness and knowledge, cooperation among stakeholders and technology transfer, but also cross-cutting issues. Another very relevant capitalization outcome are the circular economy white papers, that are 5 technical reports presenting the thematic working groups and their projects, as well as the horizontal cooperation approach in the transition towards green growth and a Mediterranean circular economy. Very briefly, these white papers are make more with less, resource efficiency, towards circular towns and city, green and smart public, zero waste, problems become opportunities in waste prevention and management, fit for a circular future, competitiveness and innovation, and synergies for green growth. Then we have produced also a green book that support the 14 modular projects in their future capitalization and transferring activities. Together with the modular projects, as a community, we also produced the green growth indexes that aim to measure the impact of all the three domains of the green growth: environment, society, and economy in the Mediterranean area. The indexes that we have proposed are based on indicators selected from existing dashboard and measured by international actors. Here I present just a couple of examples of these indexes. We have divided these indexes into two levels: the program level indicators and the project level indicators. In the program level indicators, you can have an example of the countries that have been involved in the community, but also, for example, economic activity targeted, the environmental sectors, the kind of stakeholders and target groups, and so on. The project level indicators give you an outlook more in detail on the three domain: environment, society, and economy. For example, you can see the impact of the project for the tools, certification and labeling.
2 minutes left, Martina, sorry.
Thank you, Laura. The green, you can also find all these outcomes, capitalization outcomes, and the complete figures of the indexes on our capitalization platform. That is one of the central tools that we have produced as a community, and through which we can share the project results and materials that we have developed, but also new partnership and synergies between institutions and stakeholders. So I want to invite you to join the Green Growth Capitalization platform. Very briefly, which are the key, the main activities of the second phase? We want to reinforce the collaboration across value chain to maximize the capitalization and replicability of experiences of the first phase. We want to involve more the quadruple helix sectors in matchmaking activities to facilitate development of multi-stakeholder shared action plans, promoting the effective transfer of concrete results into policy frameworks. And we also want to achieve a maximum geographical coverage of territories and actors in the Mediterranean regions, including territories from Southern Zone, as I said, thank you for with the collaboration of UFM and the initiatives like, for example, as WHICH-MED. So if you are interested in our activities, if you are SMEs and businesses, you can check the tools and the solution of the projects. If you are public authorities, you can revise the policy outcomes and see our proposal. And you can also join us for further initiative and projects on circular economy, green and circular economy, and you can contact us to explore the ways of collaboration and join activities. So once again, I invite you to visit also our capitalization platform and to contact us if you want more information about the projects and the capitalization outcomes. Thank you. I hope to have stayed in the 15 minutes.
Thank you, Martina. Perfect timing. Not the same for the connection, but I think that all these materials we will give the possibility to all the participants to join with our social networks and to find on the platform, a capitalization platform, all these materials. And also this session will be available on demand on Ecomondo platform, and so we will have the possibility to have it in the next days. Now it's a pleasure to give the floor to Markus Volkschlager. So I please Laura to share the presentation of Markus about the role of regions to support the SMEs towards the transition. Please, Marcus.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm following very closely in the European Parliament as a policy advisor the files of INTERREG, of EADF, CF, and also of the Just Transition Fund. So I'm happy to give some overview and also to what we see on here on the role of regions, of regional policy also for the SMEs towards this important transition. On my first slide, we see a general overview of the budget. We all know it's still under discussion, but the main information here we see in green, in dark green, cohesion and values. We see that regional development and cohesion is a crucial part of the European budget. Roughly 1/3 is spent on investment programs, and our aim for the next 7 years, or might be even 9 years, will be to spend a lot on this. On here we see in the updates on the Next Generation EU and GEU. The proposal was, we see here on the slide, the MFF package. On top of that, from the Next Generation EU, we would like to have 750 billion, but we also all know that the head of states in July, they reduced a bit to 672.5 billion. Out of that, grants, money you can spend directly, instead of the 500 billion, the head of states decided to have 312.5 billion only. And for the loans, there will be a bit more, instead of 250, 360 billion. But the main information on this, here we see that cohesion policy has an amount of roughly 400 billion euros over the next 7 years, even 9 years, because we have normally 2 years after still the possibility to invest. So it's about the upcoming, our decade, what we spend. On the next slide, we see the architecture. The CPR is the so-called Common Provisions Regulation. This is the roof of the financial regulation under which many of the funds are, like the Regional and Development Fund, the Cohesion Fund, the Social Fund, and others, and very new also the Just Transition Fund. So these are the funds where we can, these are the biggest public European investment funds where we can also support SMEs and a green transition and many other aspects. On the next slide, we see a bit more in the details on that. Coming maybe to the EADF Cohesion Fund directly, it will be about 250 to 270 billion euros of investment possibilities. And the architecture here are 5 big policy objectives. The policy objective number 1 is a smarter Europe, economic innovation, digitalization, which helps a lot, of course, SMEs in the regions. The PO2 here will be a 30% spending on net carbon economy, on climate change, circular economy. This is now the first time that we have practically 1/3 of this part dedicated to this green transition. The PO3 is about mobility. The PO4 is about the social Europe with the European Pillar of Social Rights, integration, and so on. And the PO5 is a smaller policy objectives dedicated to territorial change. We still have the INTERREG for the will be maybe only 8 billion euros instead of 11 like the European Parliament would like to request, and the Just Transition Fund, where we have now about 17.5 billion euros, especially dedicated to former coal regions, but not only, to have the socioeconomic challenges, because it's one thing to achieve these challenges we need to go, but we also have to support the people on the ground to cope with these challenges. Next slide, we see this was a chart on this next slide exactly here. The changes from the current period, which is 2014 to 2020, of money to the next period. Maybe just one country, Italy, is the biggest winner. So far, it will get 6.5% more cohesion policy funds than in the current period. Yeah, but let's go maybe to the next slide to see those policy objectives I mentioned. I just want to outline here again. The PO2, the PO1 is crucial. It is also they will have the biggest spending. I mean, they will have the PO1 up to 50% of the whole amount, and the PO2 a minimum of 30%. So we see they both together have already 80%, more or less. I mean, there's still some negotiation ongoing, but more or less this will be the outcome. In the next slide, we see the regions and the connections to the SMEs. We have very clearly, as you can read here in the first bullet point, the goal of enhancing sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs and job creation SMEs. This is part of the EADF, so this will be possible to support with the public money. We have also the productive investments, and we also have we can also support larger companies, but only when they are helping or connecting with SMEs. So you see there is a strong part for the small and medium sized enterprises to support them in this transition, and there is a focus on research and energy efficiency as well. On the next slide, we can go very quickly through, but I wanted to give also this big overview also here. Quite sure we all know what it's about, but sometimes it's good to have the bigger picture. We need to avoid, and we have to respect the Paris Agreement to not have the 1.5 degrees or maximum 2 degrees more, and we have already now 1.2 degrees more. On the next slide, I quoted only one phrase from the document, which you can find on Parliament and Council on the challenges and choices for 2030. And here it's clearly mentioned also that an increase of 1.5 degrees is the maximum the planet can tolerate. Should temperatures increase further beyond 2030, we will face even more droughts, floods, extreme heat, and poverty for hundreds of millions of people, the likely demise of the most vulnerable population, and at worst, the extinction of humankind altogether. This is the report from the three institutions, Council, Parliament, and Commission, on the challenges for 2030. On the next slide, there we see where the bigger picture again, why we need those investments. This is the scenario for 1.5 degrees. Every second, there is a CO2 emission globally of 1,331. That means in more or less 7 years and 5 months, in the statistics, there will be the 1.5 degrees reached if we continue as we continue now. And on the next slide, we see the 2 degrees scenario. And there we see also, there is of course a bit more time. There is 25 years and 4 months from now to reach the 2 degrees scenario, which is a kind of tipping point and which we shouldn't allow and cannot allow to reach. On the next slide, I'm coming back a bit to the regional policy again, but finally you see, and this is my point here, the things are connected. We have now 10 years of this biggest public European investment program. We have for the first time ever the mentioning of environmental challenges in the scope clearly there. We have the 30% for the CO2. We have for cities, this is also I think an interesting part, the sustainable urban development, which was 6%, now it's raised to 8%. This is the greening and the changes in the urban area in Europe. And the big discussion is still the phasing out of fossil fuels and the discussion on natural gas. To reach all these goals, we have to push now these investments to have the 55% reduction by 2030, the 80 to 85% reduction by 2040, and the 100% or the climate neutral Europe by 2050. This is a bit the timeline. On the next slide, I'm coming to the summary. The aim of cohesion policy, of regional policy, of supporting SMEs in the region is again to create jobs. Of course, this is in the last full period. There were 1 million jobs created. This is the aim, to continue at that high level. We know from studies that one taxpayer's euro invested in cohesion policy, regional policy, which is a key policy for the European Union, has a return on investment by 2.74 euro in GDP. So it's quite a successful tool. And we have next to this GDP and job goal, now more and more the green transition, the points of circular economy. Circular economy, I can say, is also quite a big issue in the discussion of the EADF right now when it comes to landfill and also residual waste, because there are of course different views if whether there should be still investment in this kind of facilities or how to reduce it. I think we are very close for having a good compromise. Overall, I can just say next year, probably in March and April, hopefully, with a slight delay, these programs can work. From the Commission side, from Ursula von der Leyen, there are the three key elements of the White Deal, the Green Deal, and the digitalization. So we have the White Deal, which is the pandemic and the fight then against the economic.
2 minutes left, Marcus. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it will be fine for 2 minutes. To get on the White Deal, the point through to boost the economy. The Green Deal is to boost it in the right direction, and the digitalization is next to it, the third big goal. So I think we are on track to deliver very soon these points. As you know, the rapporteur for the EADF is Italian, Andrea Cozzolino from Italy, from the S&D group. Thanks for the attention, and I'm happy for any questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
So thank you, Marcus, for the interesting presentation, and thank you for your availability. I think that cohesion policy, all these opportunities and these investments are very, very important to give the possibility to face these ambitious challenges that you show us in this in your pictures in the presentation. So now I'm going to give the floor to Michele Modena, and we will understand with him which are the opportunities for towards the transition to a circular and green economy for the SMEs with non-technical tools for supporting the enterprises. So Michele, if you want to share your screen and briefly introduce yourself and your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Gaetano, for inviting me to be a speaker today. So I will share my screen, and I will stop my video. Just one moment, please. Sorry for that. Laura, is it possible for you to share the screen?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for that. Okay. So I'm Michele Modena, and I'm professor at the University of Molise. So my speech regards the non-technical tools for supporting SMEs towards the transition to a circular and green economy. EU Commission has prepared a circular economy package which intervenes along the whole life cycle of products and materials, so reuse of materials, production, consumption, and the waste management. And this kind of strategy is strictly related with climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies. But the transition to a greener and circular world is a massive challenge. And we think that to achieve a green growth for the implementation of a circular economy require a systematic approach that fosters cooperation and collaboration. But why it's so important now? Unfortunately, 2020 will be remembered mainly for Corona, for COVID-19. And we know that Corona is impacting our health, our social life, and our economy seriously. Unfortunately, I have to share with you that from tomorrow, I will be again in a full lockdown. But there are some lights, you know, not so intense light, but some lights were some lights. And one of them is that Corona has shown the benefit to accelerate the reduction of the greenhouse gas emission, and the drop during this year of CO2 emission has been between 4% and 7%. But we have also a sense of how it's hard to deal with climate change. For meeting the Paris goals, the emission of CO2 must fall to more or less zero by mid-century, so it's a very hard task. And we have another lesson, we can learn another lesson from this terrible year, is that we cannot halt the world economy. The impact is too hard, so we have to rewire the economy. And doing that, all the businesses, both large and SMEs, have to change their approach to business, not just a for-profit approach, because they have to build a strong sense of purpose. But why should SMEs care about all of this? We think there are four main issues. Impact on their operation, more intense regulation, demand from consumers and customers, and technological change. So concerning the first one, SMEs should worry about the impact of climate change on their operation. I think that in almost all the agendas also of SMEs entrepreneurs, there is a topic, so the review of supply chains and the shortening of it. Because a new customer-supplier relationship with stronger relationship between closest partners are one of the next goals of all businesses. Second, more intense regulation. SMEs must expect even more intense regulation driven by governments. All governments are introducing even tougher regulation and are playing an even bigger part in how businesses respond to climate change in future. And third issues concern consumer and customers, especially younger ones, are calling for tougher and faster action on climate change. And last but not least, technology. Technology is gradually, then suddenly. And technology change will create opportunities as well as costs. And SMEs must pay attention to the fact that opportunities, some of them competitors could be the first to exploit the opportunities, leaving them only the costs. How they are reacting, the companies. SMEs have always had to adapt to a changing environment. They has to do every time, but this time climate change and all issues, all related issues, is making this adaptation harder, because there are different things to understand and different things to matter, because the impact of climate change makes physical risk trickier both to assess and to manage. And also there are barriers to invest in sustainability, and this is very hard, especially for SMEs. There are also some shifts during this year due to the corona impact, but one of the main barriers is the high cost, the difficult to implement this kind of investment, the need to have knowledge, the need to have enough skills. And of course, large companies are taking seriously the climate change, and someone thinks that in the 10 years there won't be a large entity anywhere on the planet that does not have a handle on the climate risk. But for SMEs, there are some more problems, and we think that they have to spend more to make themselves resilient to the changing environment. But as its impact becomes clear, companies have to take climate change more seriously. But how they can do, and with which technical and especially not technical tools they can do. So from a strategic point of view, we think that it's very important to have to build the green and circular ecosystem through an holistic approach by connecting the dimension of sustainability, environmental, economical, social, with the scales of intervention. So from global to local and vice versa. And in doing that, it's very important to have a strong cooperation among the different stakeholders. So now we can see some lines of non-technical intervention. We have tried to define some lines, and especially we have defined 5 of these possible and important intervention. The first one is talent. The second one is density. Then we have culture, then capital, of course, and the regulations. Concerning talent, it's very important to kickstart investment in human capital by creating qualified professionals in the field of green and circular economy with a variety of skills and experience. And we have to we have to invest in young talent, but also in old talent. And it's very important to create a mix between young and not so young talent. And then we need density. So create clusters, improve awareness about long-term benefits, create a link between academia and the real world. And then we have culture. So it's very important to highlight the green and circular economy culture as an integrated part of the business process, not something that is not connected. It's an integrated part. And also SMEs entrepreneurs must understand this kind of importance. And then we have capital, long-term investment, easier access to finance for helping SMEs along their green and circular economy journey, and to reduce the barrier to the sustainable investment, and then regulation in order to support SMEs by providing stability and use tax system as incentives for investment. And in the INTERREG MED Green Growth policy recommendation, there are some interesting proposals, and I've tried to link this kind of proposal. So in the labor market employment, cooperation among stakeholders, technology, infrastructure, awareness and knowledge, investment assets, and finance and cross-cutting issues in order to create a link with the 5 lines of non-technical intervention. So talent, density, culture, capital, and regulation. In doing that, I think we don't need a magical plan, and it's impossible to have a magical plan. We need a vision long-term plan with a set of coordinated main actions. And this plan must be, of course, long. It cannot be a short plan. And we must be very able to find the perfect mix between all the actions. And when I talk about, I refer to action, I refer the action linked to the non-technical tools above mentioned. So talent, so density, culture, capital, and regulation. And in doing that, I think we can move from sustainability to purpose. So COVID-19 has acted for a catalyst for change in sustainability, with a purpose taking center stage. And the response to the crisis show how it's important that business, how is the importance for business on society, when businesses and also SMEs look behind the short-term profits. And at the same time, we have broadened the definition of sustainability. So we are not looking only at the environment and ethical concerns, but it's very important to move to a more holistic purpose. And in doing that, it's very important that all SMEs put their efforts not only to create affordable and sustainable products, but they must do that considering the impact on economy, social, and health in order to reduce the inequalities. And of course, purpose-driven business go far beyond the traditional concept of selling products and services for creating wealth for shareholders. We must enlarge our vision, as SMEs must enlarge their vision. So in order to deliver value to all stakeholders, including society, including local communities, and including environment. And I think that in this approach and with these goals, it's very important the role that each actors could play. And so enterprises, so government, so network, and last but not least, academia. I think that linking in a proper way all the actors in reaching one goal could be very helpful for us and could bring us to a brilliant, a brighter future. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Michele, for your presentation and for having enlightened these aspects of the resilience and the non-technical tools for supporting SMEs. It's one of the issues that we have studied as a community. So this holistic approach as a living organism, it could be an answer to these challenges that we are facing in the context that we are now with the COVID-19 situation. So thank you, and let's go to Marco Frey with the next presentation, which opportunity for Mediterranean value chains from the Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. Please, Marco, share your screen. And
yes, I think you can see.
Yeah, perfect.
So, starting with the beginning of the last decade, when UNEP in 2011 diffused the Green Economy report, and at the same time, Barbier wrote a book entitled Green New Deal, we have a representation of two new economic models to change completely the approach to development in the direction of sustainable development. The definition of green economy in the UNEP report is an economy that results in improving human well-being It is low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive. So putting together the three dimensions of sustainability, the economic one, the social one, and environmental one. After 4 years, European Commission made the first plan on circularity, and the definition of circularity here is the definition of Ellen MacArthur Foundation, an economy that is regenerative by design and restorative by intention. So there is the idea to re-put inside the cycle of material, the raw material, second raw material, to close the cycle, and at the same time to restore environment and ecosystem services. In this evolution, in 2015, it's also was also very important a step connected to Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. Why? Because in this UN long-term program to 2030, for another time you have the possibility to connect with an integration approach the social dimension, the first line in this slide, the economic dimension. For the first time, UN put on the table a strategy about infrastructure innovation, the SDG number 9, sustainable city and communities, number 11, and also 12, responsible consumption and production. On the third line, you have the more environmental SDGs. So this is a completely new approach involving companies, because the business participated in the definition of the Agenda 2030, that it is very different from the previous one, the Agenda of Millennium, very social oriented. And this is the situation up to now. We have a lot of critical point, the red light underline the distance to the achievement of the goals. And as you can see in the word, the number 10, reduce inequalities, is the more critical SDGs, but also is critical climate action and responsible consumption and production, in particular for Western countries. This is evolution of measurement of SDGs. As you can see, also for Italy, the sustainable consumption and production is one of the 5 red light in the years, the 4th in 2009, in the 3 in 2020, together with the climate change and also the life underwater, the SDG 14. What happened during the Corona period, during the lockdown in the world? For all the 17 SDGs, there isn't an improvement. The green light is not present in this slide, but we have some SDGs, the environmental related, in which you have different trends. As Professor Modena told before, for example, there was a reduction in CO2 emissions or an improvement in the quality of the air in the big cities. But this is very connected to this particular experiment in which the humanity understand that it is possible to reduce CO2 emission by 17% in few months, but you have to live a very, very particular situation. In this path, we have, at the end of 2090, the European Green Deal. European Green Deal is a very courageous long-term strategy. Was not sure that after COVID-19, the European Commission maintain this kind of orientation, but we have it. And it's very interesting because you have the description of different transitions processes, the transition to decarbonization, the transition to the energy transition, the transition in the mobility sector, the transition for food and agriculture, and at the same time maintaining the natural capital and accelerating the reduction of pollution inside the economic and industrial activities. We have to finance those transitions, and there is also the tension to leave no one behind, the so-called just transition, in which you have to maintain the capacity to survive for some kind of industries during the transition period, and also maintain work opportunities. European Commission is very committed and concrete in defining a lot of strategies. In this case, you have 8 documents made on inside the European Green Deal, and you can find one document regarding the financing, the sustainable transition, the carbon strategy, the food system from farm to fork, the decarbonization, and so on. So we can find a lot of very clear documents that define the European strategy in this field. This is also connected to circular economy. In 2020, during March, European Commission diffused a new action plan about circularity, considering the value chains and in the supply chain perspective that you asked to me to underline. We have 7 supply chains involved. After plastics, the first one in which during 2018 we had a specific strategy. We have also strategy about food, textile, a very important sector for Mediterranean countries, electronics and ICT, in which there is a strong change oriented to durability of products. Buildings is the most important sector when we have to consider the waste, in particular the dangerous wastes. Batteries and cars, so the intersection between the evolution of mobility and the new energy solution for mobility, and also packaging. So in this arena, we have a lot of opportunity for Mediterranean SMEs and companies to work. But this is the definition about circular economy in the literature, and it's quite interesting that analyzing 95 different definitions, we can find, according to Kircher, that very few definitions explicitly refer to business model. So this is a very important point. We have to change completely the business model in this field. And we have also to consider the social dimension, and not only the economic and the environmental one in this change, because it's necessary when we think to a new economic model to maintain jobs, but also to create a better social situation, not only inside the workplace, but in general in the society. In the circular management approach, we have to consider the life cycle. So the supply chain is very connected to this kind of approach. The problem is starting from the raw material up to now, 92% of raw material are virgin in the economy. So only 8% is connected to the recovery, the recycling, and the creation of second raw material. So when we arrive at the end of the process, in the recycling process, it's not enough the quantity of materials that we can recover. It's necessary to start from the design, thinking new products in a different way, and then passing across production, distribution, consumption, find a way to reduce wastes in all of the different phases. In this graph, you can find also some policies that can support this effort to maintain material inside the cycle. Essential, but we have a lot of sources that analyze different typology of business model for circular economy. And I think that could be very interesting to analyze the opportunities of companies in this page. But another time, I have to underline the importance of design thinking, especially for Italy. We have to start changing the way of conception of product and services. This is an example of a company, IKEA, in the past committed to a short duration of the product in the life cycle. But this is an example in which IKEA found economic reason to maintain the durability of this kind of product of sofa.
2 minutes left, Professor. Sorry.
Sorry?
2 minutes left.
Okay, yes. So the last analysis, it's about how this approach can create opportunity for competitiveness. This is an analysis that we made with 3,000 companies. We create clusters in this field, and it was quite interesting that the cluster of circular champions perform better in different perspectives: revenue trends, employee trends, client trends, in comparison with the linear company, the majority, 41.6% of the sample. But it is also very interesting the role of circular designers. This is the demonstration of our previous consideration about the importance of design inside circularity. Thank you very much. I can stop here.
So thank you, Professor Frey. You have introduced some other concepts and issues. For sure, the small, medium enterprises, but in general, the business models and the value chains have to manage this change, this transition, and we have to realize some solutions to and how to finance this transition, facing the challenge. So we are going to the next presentation from Massimiliano Mazzanti about circular economy innovations in the sustainability transition. So we can go on in try to have some other perspectives in this transition management. So please, Massimiliano,
can you hear me well? Okay. Just check if you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, great. Thank you for inviting me. Okay, first slide. Well, thanks also to Professor Frey for introducing the issue. So I will try me to provide the complement vision. So this work is part of, especially part of research project we have been involved in for some years with the European Topic Center on waste material and green economy. So all the most of the thoughts I have derived from this experience that we also publish free downloadable reports, so you can check the European Environment Agency website for info reports on sustainability and circular economy and green economy transitions. So I will divide my talk in three parts. So a bit of macroeconomics, to set a bit of framework, not repeating myself, is some focus on innovations, Italy and Europe, and then business models and case studies, even if my field is political economy, but I will provide some concrete case studies, a couple of concrete case studies too. Don't want to repeat what was just said, but we have to be aware of the fact that innovations and business models could derive from smart innovators, strong leaders, but the macroeconomic setting is driven by policymakers and policies. So well-designed policies, and this is not circular economy, but climate change policies are a great driver, strong driver of the transition. Okay, so as you see, Europe is at the frontier of that. So also have the just transition, that which is relevant because we have to link technological development with human resource management. Okay, so it could be the case that the green economy, and green innovations have impact. There is evidence, especially in the US, impacts that are biased towards by gender, also by skill. So we have to be aware of the fact that we have to use education and training to compensate for this fact. Okay, circular economy. We had wonderful figures before. A new way of communicating waste prevention and strategies. Okay, so to reduce waste, resource efficiency is the key macroeconomic indicator. So the challenge is to reduce waste generation. That is still a challenge, as climate change is on the complement side. So those two challenges are the key ones, and we have energy in between. For example, waste to energy is a link between circular economy and climate change. But this we have not achieved a turning point. Okay, even if the most preferred prevention option was very clear from the beginning of the story back in the 70s. Okay, when it was defined this hierarchy. Okay, resource productivity is the key macroeconomic indicator. There is a nice Eurostat page now devoted to circular economy. Here, again, empirical evidence. Not a surprise for my perspective that Italy is, besides the rankings, that I don't like rankings, but Italy has improved. It's typically be among the 3-4 top countries in terms of resource productivity. It's not a surprise because Italian policies in the waste realm, in Italian firms have performed pretty well in the innovation side. Italy is still an industrial economy which is coherent with the circular economy transition. Okay, and SMEs especially. So just a publication, not to cite myself, but to focus on the fact that innovations are crucial. Like innovation, Italy is okay again, besides rankings, but we are close to the leaders. Northern European countries, I mean, and the leaders. So this is also kind of competitive advantage that we may highlight in terms of economic system. Yeah, also employment higher than the average in eco industries. This is the innovation scoreboard. I think that instead, if you take the innovation scoreboard, Italy is typically lower than the average. Then we still have a problem with R&D, for example, but here in innovation, and again, patents, just a correlation for an hypothesis, there's not a causality, but so we could also research about the hypothesis that patents and innovation create jobs, even using, you see, regional data that we have, not just country-based data. Again, R&D, as I was mentioning, is a typical problem of this country. And this is linked to the SMEs' role. I mean, SMEs can counterbalance the lack of R&D through cooperation. This is an issue in circular economy. So closing the loops for materials, but also closing the loops in terms of knowledge. Climate change and circular economy maybe need even more cooperation across sectors, across firms of various kind of. Okay, so this is the background. Moving to a bit of original data, as it was highlighted before. I mean, we also work on environmental applied economics directions. We just concluded this survey on the Italian manufacturing industry, covering for 4,000 more firms. The data are, we're going to set a series of webinars in the winter. We're also going to replicate this survey next year to have a kind of 2 periods kind of observation, also including, if you have some interest, a bioeconomy module next year. But besides that, some numbers, just numbers, raw numbers, because we have not analyzed the data. I mean, the survey just was concluded in August, September. So we have different innovations, or this is in Italian, but we have innovations on reduction of water, materials, renewables, production of waste, eco-design was mentioned, CO2 reduction. So maybe CO2, we see a typical fragility, SMEs, maybe they are stronger in circular economy and renewables, high numbers, typical numbers for innovators. I mean, between 10-25% of firms tend to innovate. Is pretty coherent with other surveys. So again, this is just one of the possible figures we may have. And this is okay. This is another story. We just there's also this industry digitalization. In Industry 4 is a part of digitalization. So the digitalization direction, trajectory, and the green economy trajectory, where you have possible complementarities, but also trade-offs. Okay, so here we have, maybe pretty low numbers in terms of firms who adopted eco innovations, but also introduced, joined with Industry 4.0 programs. So this is another possible hint for reflection and food for thought. So you see that part. Final couple of examples. So from the macro to the sectors to surveys to even more micro. Complement to that, we are interviewing firms, especially in Emilia-Romagna, Ferrara, Bologna, Ravenna are the areas where we move around. Just 2 examples among others. we are going to publish a working paper by Zia on case studies, I mean, kind of business models papers. One is this firm. This is a firm that is maybe familiar with you because those green boxes are the ones that you face at supermarkets, I mean, in most supermarkets, okay, for vegetables and fruits, okay. This is a typical example of a small, medium enterprise who developed a patent. And the plastic here, I mean, plastic is a big issue with all the trade-offs. They say, well, plastic is very circular because plastic is forever. That's also the problem of plastics. But if you take plastics for serious, you see that you may have this business model where plastics is repaired over 7 years, fully recovered, and then the problem is to fully close the circle. So to destroy them in the box and recreate boxes out of these boxes after 7-8 years of this cycle. Also leasing, because the boxes are not owned by supermarkets and companies. Okay, so this is one first example. The other example is about food. I mean, this is, and I finish with that. This is fine because this links many things. Here we have, for example, the production. Here it is fresh fruits, which are competitor to the typical other way of producing. So fresh fruits means that you don't use heat. So you have to have fresh materials, higher capital costs, but you can use renewables because you don't use natural gas, but electricity. So typical cost benefit issue, sunk cost at the beginning, benefits over the way, environmental and economic benefits. Okay.
Minutes left. Sorry.
Perfect. I'm on time. And then the packaging, plastic free. You could have the issue about new types of packaging. Health related issues as well, because you use contents. I mean, the contents of these snacks, for example, could link to health objectives. Okay, so it even links to the local agricultural market. So, for example, using a diversified set of inputs in the way you use lands, diversification of production. So you see this circular economy, health, energy issues all related together. So I thought that those two examples, plastics, very hot debate on that, and food could be nice examples, I mean, to be down to earth examples for finishing my talk. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Massimiliano, for the concrete examples. It is important to understand how to translate the high-level strategies, the EU strategies, into actions, into projects, into activities. So perfect. Thank you very much. So we move to the next presentation. We're with Alessandro Miraglia from SwitchMed, and we're talking about enabling the transition to a circular economy, tools and services for the private sector. We got Alessandro. Could you share the screen? We are not able to listen to you. Please open the microphone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, coming to down to earth example, I think SwitchMed is one of those programs which are trying to operationalizing circular economy and more specifically SCP within the business support for the private sector. My name is Alessandro Mirai. I'm responsible for the communication and networking facility at SwitchMed, which is led by the UNEMAP Regional Activity Center for Sustainable Consumption and Production. First of all, let me thank you for this event, for having pursued, of course, the organization of the conference under these difficult circumstances, and for having invited SwitchMed. As you may know, SwitchMed is a program which has started in 2014, funded by the EU and co-funded by the Italian Corporation and the Catalan government with a global financial endowment of 40 million euro. The objective of the program is to accelerate the adoption of sustainable consumption and production as a strategy lying at the heart of an inclusive transition to circular economy in the southern Mediterranean countries. SwitchMed works actually in 8 countries in the southern region, bringing together public and private stakeholders to realize the so-called quintuple helix, having at its core the creation of environmental, social, and economic value via eco-design and eco-innovation. To achieve this result, the program has been designed to offer a very wide range of services to industries, SMEs, startups, CSOs, and policymakers, combining demonstration activities, networking, and policy development. In doing this, SwitchMed highlight the potential contribution of these southern neighbors countries to the European Green Deal, consolidating, let's say, a Euro-Mediterranean perspective and advocating for an inclusive external dimension of the EU Green Deal. Key idea of the program is to promote the development of an ecosystem of public-private stakeholders supporting business-led circular economy transition. The expected outcome is to enable innovation and knowledge capital and to promote its transfer through networking and capacity building activity. We champion basically the idea of building ecosystems which are somehow self-renewing and self-organizing to foster the action sustainability and to uphold eco-innovation as a means to produce value, of course, for the economy, but also for the people and mainly the planet. This is the reason why SwitchMed is designed around these 4 thematic areas you can see in this slide: industry and service providers, startups and green entrepreneurs, policy, and networking facility. Behind these 4 areas, there are stakeholders whose combination and networking are for us the bedrock of much needed paradigm shifts, as already mentioned by other speakers. In our view, transitions to circular economy needs a planned, coordinated, and of course well-equipped response to trigger the enormous economic and social potential of the private business sector. The scale of this invoked transition is huge, as already mentioned, considering the current impacts of climate crisis and environmental degradation. To ensure that human population in the region can fulfill their needs, leaving, as said, no one behind, systemic changes are needed. And SwitchMed declines system thinking in supporting the private business by a set, let's say, of different activity. First of all, cascading changes within global value chains, triggering demand-supply synergies, and facilitating collaboration among the different stakeholders, providing direct technical and financial support to high demonstration impact productive activities, which are at the forefront of SCP and circular economy innovation, enabling the creation of novel green business model, offering also direct support to ideation and early stage entrepreneurs, and enabling evidence-based policymaking to fast-track business-driven eco-innovation. Delving into the specific segment of the program's ecosystem, we can better understand which are the tools and services which SwitchMed rolls out to contribute to the mentioned transition. The industry and service providers component follows a context-based approach, engaging countries on the basis of their innovation status in terms of resource efficiency and cleaner production. Within the scope of this component, the first objective is to consolidate results achieved so far. SwitchMed has had a first phase, and now we are in the second phase of the program, and accelerate the uptake of resource efficiency in the manufacturing private sector. A number of services are delivered for this reason to support RACP service providers in their effort to building their own business model, but also consolidating their own business plan for commercialization of RACP. This is done based on country opportunities and needs, defining well, let's say, which is the value proposition of the RACP, its pricing strategy, offering them pitching and marketing opportunities, but also engagement plan with for new industry clients. As for RACP as a basis for circular transition, we posit that greener and closed loop industrial systems will enable capturing more value from products and of course materials, and also will mitigate risk of price volatility and material supply, establishing more economic resilience and ultimately, which is our objective, decoupling growth from an increasing demand on resources. In doing this, of course, we know that there are a number of EU best practices, as also the presentation from Mr. Mazzanti showed, for a circular industry that could be promoted, but also localized in the South Mediterranean, and widely adopted to promote a more collaborative environment in terms of technology transfer. Results and tools of the first phase of SwitchMed will be expanded in this sense beyond the boundaries of manufacturing processes to address business opportunity for closing material loops along selected value chains. Reflecting a bit what is containing in the Green Deal, we will be targeting mostly textiles, plastic packaging, and food. Doing better with less is the lemma of this project component, whose results achieved so far have been key in reducing direct negative impact on the industrial process. I would say also leading to the establishment of a blueprint for getting both economic and environmental savings. Numbers speak by themselves, but here what is important is to highlight the potential in terms of industrial footprint reduction when it comes to CO2 emissions and water efficiency. Of course, we are talking about the Southern Mediterranean region, which is particularly sensitive to water scarcity and, of course, impact of the climate crisis. Along with resource efficiency and cleaner production in the industrial sector, SwitchMed supports the generation of new eco-innovative business models, which can provide solutions both to existing industry and final consumers, integrating circularity from scratch, being their value proposition built to deliver by the very outset of their project, social, environmental, and of course, economic value. SwitchMed has prototyped and tested during its first phase from 2014 to 2018, a wide range of business support methodologies targeting ideation and early stage entrepreneurs. As for this second phase, the project is facilitating the transfer of these methodologies to local business support organizations. We are also helping to establish national networks offering coordinated services to green entrepreneurs. We consider capacity building and networking as part of the same strategy to stimulate the development of local business support ecosystem, again, integrating BSOs, public stakeholders, and investors to better organize the journey, let's say, these startups and entrepreneurs, which we have named the switchers, those who are igniting the switch of production and consumption patterns. For them, for the switchers, we have also facilitated the establishment of a regional community, which as of now counts on, I would say, approximately 400 different initiatives. Thanks to this embryonic green business support ecosystem, SwitchMed is able to funnel direct business services for ideation and early stage ventures, deploying a mix of technical but also financial assistance activity. On this ladder, we have created the Switcher Fund, which is, let's say, our matchmaking and impact financing mechanism, which is offering capacity building to green entrepreneurs to raise a bit more their investor readiness, but also raise awareness among potential investors about impact investment opportunities and manage direct funding, funneling direct financial support to those who we believe being the most promising business ventures. the startups and entrepreneurs component reach out to more than 2,000 people in the region, mainly youth and women, contributing to the establishment up to the date of more than 200 startups, part of which have also been directly incubated and accelerated by our program. We contributed to generate more than 1,000 jobs and mobilize more than 6,000 persons who applied to our services offer in the countries you can see listed in this infographic, which also contain a further analytical breakdown of these important outreach. Supporting the private sector for us also entails enabling policy frameworks which are conducive to its development and which are also able to remove market and financial barriers. In this sense, SwitchMed has worked to reinforce the governance mechanisms underlying the SCP transition with a twofold result. The first is promoting the establishment of national SCP action plan, tailored on the experience and context, of course, of each single country. And the second has been designing a regional SCP action plan, which has been adopted by the Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Mediterranean in its effort to consolidate the regional governance for sustainable development within the region. During its second phase, our program will actually build on these two major outcomes, mainstreaming national SCP action plan and following up on their implementation, but also promoting the adoption of regional measures to support circular economy within the governance framework, again, of the Barcelona Convention, of which we are integral part. Resonating the importance of circular economy and pursuing a paradigm shift also implies working, of course, at macro level, advocating and showcasing best practices and sustainable business cases. Actually, today I'm happy to mention here that we will soon launch a regional award competition to acknowledge the importance of eco-innovative business champions, also in line with the flagship initiative of the Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development of UNEMAP. A number of stakeholders have been so far engaged in the policy activities, bringing together actors from both the northern and the southern Mediterranean rims, and once again representing an ideal platform for catalyzing the external dimension of the EU Green Deal. National SCP plan have been coupled also with the development of pilot projects supporting the private sector, which are powerful demonstration activities or in-depth demonstration activities, as the climate kick called these kind of experiences, which have been then further analyzed in light of offering data and evidence for policy development.
2 minutes left, Alessandro, sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, last but not least, the networking facility also works at macro level to put in practice much needed actions in terms of behavioral and mindset changes. We do this by systematically monitoring and documenting best practices, designing capitalization paths which can reach key players in the Mediterranean, increasing, of course, visibility of SCP and green SMEs and startups as a specific service actually linked to our business development support offer. This visibility we granted them, we hope can also, let's say, support the stimulation of consumption for their products, both at national level, but also, let's say, at regional level. Additionally, the networking facility works to promote sustainable consumption, which is addressing both global value chain stakeholders and, again, final consumer. Our responsibility spans from identifying, engaging, and connecting public and private stakeholders to offer concrete solutions for knowledge transfer as part of the efforts to build an integrated regional business ecosystem, which we hope is ready or will be ready now with the Green Deal to grasp the opportunities offered by the circular economy transition. I thank you for your attention. You can reach us on our website and our social network. And of course, we will be happy to offer more detailed information about SwitchMed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. A very clear presentation about SwitchMed projects. This is very important, this kind of initiative. You you give us a glimpse of what you mean as a switcher. We need to move in this direction to face the changements and this process of transition. So thank you very much. And now we are going to Luca Guarneri to present B Corp and Benefit Corporation, a model of sustainability. Luca, you are welcome to share your screen, please.
Yes, of course, I'm going to do it right now. Can you all hear me? Yes.
Yes, you're on it. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So basically, one second. Okay, so in this video, we will deepen the... I'm Luca Guarneri.
Sorry to interrupt you. You could enlarge the image a little bit. We can see only the center of the screen.
Sorry, is it better now?
Perfect, perfect. Please, thank you.
Okay. So I'm Luca Guarneri from Nativa. We do consulting in the aspects of sustainability. So in this presentation, we are going to deepen the knowledge of two kinds of companies that are redefining the role of business with regard to sustainable development, integrating sustainability within processes and business models, and thus creating value for both themselves and the community at the same time. So we're talking about B Corps and benefit corporations, or società benefit in Italian. But before getting into details, it's better to start from a broader vision of the general context and understand a simple truth. So the simple truth is that something is changing. Everyone is realizing it. We have seen in the previous presentation. So globally, the public is rapidly becoming aware of the challenges that we're facing as a human race, challenges such as climate change, poverty, the plastic poured into the oceans, and everything that we hear about on a daily basis. And the public itself, in its role of consumer, will of course express the values in which it believes and its personal preferences. And studies are confirming that nowadays an increasing number of people assign sustainability a primary value to their consumption choices. So this is happening in the financial sector too. There is an increasing attention to sustainability as a driver for better risk management that also takes environmental and social issues into account, and a higher stability of investments. Goldman Sachs, for example, has declared will allocate 750 billion for large opportunities in sustainable finance, while the Green Deal promoted by the European Union is worth, as we know, 1,000 billion and will be dispersed over 10 years, with the aim of making Europe the first zero-emission continent. Meanwhile, in Italy, Intesa Sanpaolo will allocate 50 billion for sustainable investment opportunities. And although sustainable finance became mainstream quite recently, it's also been a long time since a number of important organizations have integrated social and environmental consideration into their strategic decision. So, for example, BlackRock is the largest investment fund in the world, managing assets for more than 7 trillion euros. And during the last years, its founders and CEO Larry Fink has been urging the CEOs of the companies in which BlackRock invests in for a sustainable management strategy in order to create long-term value. And in the letter of 2018, the letter to the CEOs of he exposed this sense of urge, of a sense of purpose in doing business that will not be able to achieve their full potential if companies will not achieve the full potential. So do this will be destined to hurt in the. So I'm not going to go in. Not going to go in detail with the SDGs, but there are the SDGs, which are a set of common principles that can enable the system to thrive globally, made by the United Nations, and they were designed to guide governments, and now have been successfully extended to companies to provide shared framework for sustainable action. So about the real question so becomes, how does all this connect with our daily activities? So how can we bring all these sustainability concepts to life through our work? First of all, we need to understand the role of business in the development process that we're experiencing. So all the great changes we've witnessed in the latest centuries that allowed us to improve our living standards have originated from science and technology, and business is their concrete application. So business is actually the most powerful machine that's ever invented, and it has now reached such potential that it can generate impacts compared to those of natural events. So like energy, business is powerful, but without an intrinsic ethical characteristic, it's just power. So just like electricity that can be used to kill a person, but at the same time to power a hospital, a company can have a positive or negative impact depending on how it is driven and conceived. So the fact that today we live in an economic system in which collateral damage seems to be greater than benefits stem from the fact that the predominant concept of a company presents a design flaw, which is the fact that companies make of shareholder value their sole purpose. So the sustainability of the system becomes increasingly evident, so does the need to use business as a force for positive change to create a more just and inclusive society and regenerate the biosphere. It is fundamental to move from the maximization then of value for shareholders to the maximization of value for all stakeholders, including shareholders, but also employees, the community, customers, and the environment and the suppliers as well. And this is where the B comes in and comes into the speech. So the B Corp movement and the Benefit Corporation were born to turn this awareness into reality. So there are companies that use business as a force for good in order to lead the path to a regenerative economy that guarantees a truly sustainable development for all. This movement, the B Corp movement, was born in the United States in 2006 when 3 entrepreneurs decided to found a movement of companies that put the creation of value for all stakeholders at the heart of their work. So through an accurate measurement of the impacts and the formalization of the specific benefit purposes that the company intends to pursue. This vision then gave birth to the B Corp, the B Corp movement, and at the same time the international no-profit Lab, which is responsible for coordinating and promoting the whole movement. And as far for the measurement of impacts is concerned, B-Lab has created and made available for free the B-Impact Assessment, which is a tool that now I'm going to focus on in the next slides. So thanks to this community allows companies to be able to create value for their shareholders and for all the stakeholders affected by their activities. In this way, it's possible for for-profit companies to pursue positive social and environmental impacts, something that was traditionally linked just to no-profit organization. So business therefore rediscovered its most authentic and purest vocation within the economic system, which is improving the living condition for all, contributing to the creation of shared prosperity, but also, and through these also increasing profits, which is something that we should not just let apart. And here comes also the tool, the impact assessment, the tool that I was talking about, which allows companies, a free tool online, which allows companies to measure what really matters at 360 degrees. And let's start us also to know and to acknowledge what this assessment speaks about. So the impact assessment is currently the world's most widely adopted tool for measuring social and environmental impact of companies. It has been developed by B-Lab, as I said, and is available online for free. So the tool brings together all the main sustainability standards, such as the GRI, Carbon Disclosure Project, ISO management systems, and many others, and adapts them to the profile of each company in order to be as objective as possible in terms of size, industry, and other variables that distinguish the different companies. It's made of a questionnaire, and the questions that make up the assessment are grouped into 5 thematic areas. So the first one is the governance, so all the practices put in place related to transparency, responsibility, and the decision-making processes. The second section measures the impacts on workers, so the working environment, opportunities for career development, and then the tool assesses the impact on the community, including on the side the supply chain, the management of the supply chain, the logistics, and on the other side the impact on the local community in which the the company operates. Then the environment area includes questions about energy and natural resource use, such as waste production and management, but also pollutant and climate altering gas emissions of the company. And finally, the customer area measures how much the company's products and services actually improve the lives of those who trust them. So the impact on the client of the company. There is a total score that varies in a range from 0 to 200 that is provided. In the impact assessment scoring system, 80 represent the break-even point. So below 80 points, the company is still operating through an extractive paradigm and therefore takes more resources and value than the resources and value that it returns to its activities. And on the contrary, a company with a score of 80 or higher returns more value to the environment and society than the value that the company needs to generate profit. For this reason, the companies that achieve the 80 points or above are eligible to become B Corps. It is important to keep in mind that 80 does not represent a minimum, but a level of excellence, as we can see here, because on more than 120,000 companies that measure themselves with the impact assessment, only 3% managed to overcome these 80 points, which is only 3,300. But the average score is 51, so it is actually perfectly understandable. It should not surprise us because today almost the entire economic system works according to an extractive paradigm. So here, just a small example of Patagonia, a company that we all know. In 2011, the company score was 107, and they had a turnover of $500 million. They continue to develop their sustainability profile, reaching an extraordinary score 152 5 years later. And this is a proof that profit and sustainability, they do not contradict each other, because at the same time, at the same year, their turnover reached 750 million, so a 50% increase. The B impact assessments also is linked to the SDG Action Manager. So thanks to the partnership between B Lab and the UN Global Compact, they released this tool called SDG Action Manager, which is also available online for free, and allows companies to analyze the specific impact on each SDGs by answering to a set of additional questions that integrate those already included in the assessment, which is the B impact assessment. Here we can see some data. So the use of the B impact assessment has had an exponential growth in the number of users worldwide. Today, there are more than 3,300 B Corps, as we said before, in more than 70 countries, 150 sectors. And here we can see some big companies worldwide become B Corp. As much as concerns Italy, the B Corp movement in Italy shows the highest growth rate in the world, even compared to the United States. And in addition to Nativa, we can also see other big companies such as Chiesi, which is a pharmaceutical multinational from Parma. It is currently Europe's largest B Corp.
Luca, 2 minutes late.
Okay, so so far we've been speaking about the B Corps, but B Corp is just available worldwide. But on the other side, the status of benefit corporation, associated benefit in Italy, can be adopted by the legislation of the single country. So in 2016, Italy became the first country after the United States, and also became the first sovereign country in the world to offer companies the opportunity to become a benefit corporation. Today, it is just possible in 36 states of the United States, and also these other countries that we can see here in the map. All this starts from the fact that the first article of the Italian law on benefit corporation states that the law is intended to promote the establishment and spread of societal benefit, which in their economic activity, and in addition to the purpose of dividing profits, pursue one or more specific benefit purposes and operates in a responsible, sustainable, and transparent way towards people, community, and the environment. So the societal benefit include the corporate object, the specific benefit purposes. So meaning that the social and environmental impacts which they commit to pursue. This means that the company does not just have to pursue profit, but can also pursue some other social and environmental aspect, and this is made by their constitution. Nativa brought this topic into the Italian political agenda taking inspiration from the Benefit Corporation in the US. The founders on ATIA wanted to make explicit in the company's bylaws that apart from profit, their purpose was the happiness of all those who were part of it. But when they submitted by the law, the bylaws to the Chamber of Commerce of Milan, they were rejected 4 times because according to the Italian law at the time, the only valid purpose of a company was to distribute dividends to shareholders. So another piece of evidence that the operating system of companies was inherently extractive. An entrepreneur was legally forbidden to explicitly contribute to the creation of shared value through his activities. By the 5th time the bylaws were submitted, they were finally accepted. But in order to make it easier for the companies to formalize the vocation by the laws, Nativa collaborated on the creation of the law on società benefit, which was ratified at the end of 2015, and made Italy the first nation in the world where companies can officially register as benefit corporation. So to sum up, the fundamental concept to keep in mind is that there is no reason why individual and collective prosperity cannot grow hand in hand. On the contrary, it is precisely by strengthening each other that they can lead humanity to a future of shared and lasting prosperity. As the contradiction of economic system based on outdated paradigms become increasingly evident, so do the solution as well. Reimagining business as a force for good is not only an ethical issue, it is one of the most powerful tools to increase profits and competitiveness and to meet consumer values and properly manage risk. I would just like to close my intervention with this concept. So all these concepts I'm speaking about may seem idealistic, but I just ask you to think about a typical American farm in the 19th century, whose value creation processes was based primarily on the use of slaves. This was the way the business worked, and it was perfectly normal. It was totally taken for granted, and the vast majority of the population did not have any moral problems with regards to it. So let's think about the disgust that we feel if we look back at those pages of history and keep in mind that not many years from now, when the regenerative function of business will be the norm, future generation will look at today's system with the same feeling. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Very interesting, impressive. You have, I think, well represented the need of manage this changement to reach the Green Deal goals. So we have finished with the presentations. We've got some minutes to highlight some issue and take some other consideration together. We have discussed about key issues, paradigms, approaches, policies, and strategies. And you have highlighted in your presentation the importance of our work as a community, the opportunities of investments that we will have with the Green Deal and to finance project initiatives and all these new business models. I think that we could, I will share a last slide in which we could have, as I said, some other consideration in terms of all these challenges and which could are the next steps and which would be the role of the stakeholders. So you're representing here the industry, the academia, and also the public authorities, and we have to work together with the civil society to find the solutions. But I would ask you a brief consideration, because for sure we don't have today the time, but I want to consider this session as a starting point of a dialogue with all of you, a dialogue with the Green Growth community, open to all your perspectives, to all your experiences that are of international relevance, multidisciplinary, multi-dimensional, and multi-level. So I think it could be interesting some other consideration in terms of the role of your organization in this framework. Academia or industry, they have to work together, but in which sense? Have you some other consideration on this issue?
If I may say something.
Yeah, please. You're welcome, Alessandro.
Thank you very much for this last remark. Well, I think that we totally share and agree with the green growth community on the need of building community, and again, building ecosystems which can actually host this community of change makers, innovators, and offer them a collaborative space to actually bring these tools we have already tested and we have already applied to the core of what is going to be the Green Deal. My only remark is going to be on the possibility actually of reinforcing this networking and cooperation to uphold actual existing governance framework, meaning that specifically for what concern the INTERREG MED and of course SWITCH MED and the importance of the Euro-Mediterranean perspective, because I mean we are not solving nor sorting out any kind of environmental problem or crisis within the Mediterranean if not through a very strict and close collaboration between the two different regions. So again, upholding the regional governance framework already existing, among them for sure the Barcelona Convention, and trying to mainstream all this cooperation and all this recommendation within the framework also of the UFM. I insist that the external dimension of the Green Deal will ultimately impact on the possibility that the climate crisis on the Mediterranean will be effectively tackled. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Very interesting. I hope that in the next steps in next year we could work together on this issue for sure. So other considerations from I don't know academia or public authorities about the collaboration, the way in which we could translate strategy policies into actions.
Just one consideration, Gaetano.
Please, Michele, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I think that university could play an important role, and I think specifically we have the third mission activities that could be very important in knowledge transfer and tech transfer regarding important issues as the one we have just discussed, this green and circular economy. You know, we have patent, we have startups, trials, public engagement. I think all of them are important tools, useful for the benefit of the society. But the question is how we can use it. I think that sharing for implementation could be the mantra. So we need a network approach because network approach, from my point of view, take into account the differences of heterogeneous actors and contexts, and a network approach could be helpful for mitigating the impact of regulation and bureaucracy. In this context, and in doing this, maybe academia must rethink its own mission. We have now 3 pillars: teaching, and no one calls teaching first mission; research, and no one calls research a second mission; and then we have a third mission, which is considered an institutional goal, but not an individual goal of each professor and the researcher. I think if we want to improve our role and to give a boost to the real world, or try to give a boost to the real world, specifically in these themes, I think that it's important for academia to introduce new metrics and new ways of thinking, and maybe academia must rethink its own mission. And the third mission, as we call now, is the mission of the university, where teaching and research are the tools to achieve the goal of facilitating their transfer in order to contribute to the progress and benefit of society. This is my point of view.
Thank you very much. Very clear. We need the research, we need the academia for sure to move forward to this transition and collaborate with the other stakeholders of this quintuple helix approach. So maybe I was interested in one last consideration about the new business model. I don't know if Luca from Nativa has very brief considerations about it. It could be an answer to this request of changing your business model.
Yes, I do believe in order to, like, for instance, one example, reaching the Green Deal, I believe the one solution could be actually change to new ways of doing business, so a new business paradigm. And I do believe the B Corp movement could have a great role in leading companies towards this changing. So this new way of doing business, which is actually not actually new. So from centuries, the business activity has always been linked to the needs of society and community. But of course, in the last century, there has been some bigger interests that have interfered in this. But I do believe that in this new change, trying to change to new paradigm can be one solution, and the B Corp movement could have a big role, a leading role in this.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Luca. I don't know if there are some other considerations from the other speakers. We are a little bit late, so if we are no other consideration, I would only remind you about, don't forget to visit our virtual stand in Ecomondo platform. The Green Growth community and its project are present in the platform. Follow our seminar. Yesterday we have had this seminar about best practice for innovative Mediterranean SMEs, and it is available on demand on the platform of Ecomondo. And then the next steps could be to participate in the business forum in Circle the Med next week. Thank you for having attended this meeting. And as I said, I consider this a starting point for a collaboration with all of you. Thank you very much from the Green Growth community for all of us. So
if it's possible, to turn on the webcams so we can have a screenshot all together. It's a group photo.
Sorry, it says that it's impossible for me to open it. It said that I've been, I think someone, yeah.
Oh, but it's a pity.
Yeah.
okay.
No, because it said that someone from, like, the guest, they interrupted my video. I think it's because it wasn't working very well.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe Laura, can you try to?
They can unlock me somehow.
No problem. We will have the opportunity to take a photo in presence in a few months.
Okay.
Hopefully,
okay,
very soon.
Okay.
Oh, now we can see you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Keep in touch and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye to everyone and all to the audience. Bye.
Bye to everyone.
Bye.